Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 30th episode of Visioncon Live, your go-to nerdy talk show. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but you didn't come here to see me today. You came to see the woman of the hour. She's Lizzie from Gears 5, Katie from Gone Home, female player character from Anthem, just to name a few. From indies to AAA titles, she can and has done it all. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only, Sarah Elmaleh. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Hello.
Oh my God! Did I nail the last name, or did I butcher it?
It was close. I think it was basically acceptable. Elmaleh.
Basically acceptable. I'll take it.
Like tamale.
Tamale. Oh, dang it! I
Yeah.
should have known that. I'm from California, so you'd think I'd know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, that's the usual key.
Now, before we get started, guys, I do need to do one bit of housekeeping because, ladies and gentlemen, we finally made it because we have our own sponsor. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this week's episode of VisionCon Live is brought to you by the Halp Network. The Halp Network offers talented freelancers, professionals, and small businesses get in contact with the content creators they're looking for. They also provide classes and webinars covering a variety of fields in the entertainment industry, suited for both novices and professionals working to enhance their craft. From actors to film editors to even motion capture stages, the Halp Network is here to help you get connected. Visit them online at www.halpnet.com, and that's spelled H-A-L-P net.com, to see how you can improve your life with their help. Woo! Always wanted to do an ad read. Thank you guys so much again at the Halp Network for sponsoring this video. And Sarah, I just want to kick us off with one quick thing. Now,
Okay.
You're all like I said in the intro, from indies to AAAs, there's nothing you can really can't do in a bunch of projects that we're actually going to touch on. But I first wanted to ask you, how did we get here? Now, from the beginning, did you always want to be, just kind of such a talented actress and voice actress, or did something happen along the way that kind of got you there?
I think I have always been striving for, I guess, talent. I just really didn't want to think to myself, gee, I better be kind of stinky. I loved games from when I was very little. My earliest memories, I remember the Nintendo at my cousin's, and fighting over the console, learning how to negotiate family relationships to share the console. We weren't allowed to have consoles when I was growing up, so we had to rent them. Which meant just the most atrocious binge behavior, just like over the weekend playing it until our hands fell off, which was horrifying to my parents, I'm sure. And then more PC games from middle school through high school, picking up again with consoles after. But so there was a parallel track of like discovering acting and messing around with different categories of acting and doing a little bit of drama school and learning that way, as well as traditional voice, like other kinds of voiceover. So I was exploring commercial voiceover and other things like that. But the parallel track of that was always loving games and having different sort of escalating revelations about people doing this for a living and doing it as a job, and imagining what that would be like, and kind of thinking that it sounded really fun and chill and like challenging and cool. So eventually I just joined those two paths, and I was like, oh, hello. Hello. These dots connect. And going from there. So yes and no, but also kind of yes.
Sure. Well, it was definitely a match made in heaven for you, especially growing up surrounded by video games.
Mm-hmm.
But was the entry to this field, kind of easy to permeate into, or were there definitely entry barriers that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are today?
I mean, there are normal entry barriers that are that I sort of struggle to give advice about because they can be really daunting, just in acting in general, and voiceover in general. I found it interesting getting into games specifically because I really came through indies, which is sort of unusual. It's possibly more common now than when I started out, and I'm old. But when I did it, I went to games conferences, like the Game Developers Conference, and I started at PAX actually because I didn't know where else to go. But eventually discovered other events where developers were hanging out, and I didn't see a lot of other actors there. And I think that's sort of a culture barrier where like there's a casting pipeline, especially for bigger games. It's really separate from the game development community and the kind of conversation and meetups that happen there. But I just put myself there. I was like, hello, I like games, put me in them.
Sure.
And then like for many indie devs that didn't happen to know about the other pipeline that happens, the traditional way of doing things, I was the only indie voice actor, or like the only voice actor they knew. So that was lucky for me. So that was the way that I did it, was just a kind of, I was just interested in games anyway, and love and curious about the people who made them. And so I put myself in these places where I knew I would meet those folks and get to know them, and maybe kind of show up on their radar for acting stuff. That was my way in. And I think it still works. I think if you go to PAX, these days, the reality is that indie devs are showing their own games on the show floor. Like you can play someone's game and then turn and talk to the person that made it. And like, not only just have a really interesting conversation, but you can sort of make connections that way. So you can kind of still probably do it that way, I guess. I would think. But when it comes to AAA, it's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly, and that's the very special thing about indie games, is that you definitely get more of that one-on-one feel,
Yeah.
which perfectly segues my way to my first question. Which
Happy to help.
I have a few characters that you've done over the years that I do want to touch on, and the fans have definitely want to hear about. The first one being Katie from Gone Home. Now, let me kind of preface this by the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, Gone Home is by far my favorite indie game of all time, and my own personal experience with it is the fact that inherently I do know that I, as a cis hetero white man, have, and excuse me, get on my soapbox, I have innate advantages in this world, compared to other people, and I freely acknowledge that. However, while playing Gone Home and experiencing, how it's like to be, on the other end of the spectrum, and for those of you who don't know what Gone Home is about, it is essentially, without too many spoilers, about a woman who comes home, named Kate, to find out, kind of what's happened ever since she was gone. And her sister turns out to have came out as lesbian to her parents, and, doesn't exactly go as well as one would hope. And, through playing all of this, I mean, I got tearful because, you don't know how lucky you have it, especially when you're someone like me who has essentially all the advantages in the world, very supportive parents, and just, seeing all this stuff. So I would just like to ask you, kind of, how was it playing the lead in this game? And how do you see the impact that it has had on, both the LGBTQA community, plus community, as well as allies like myself?
I think, and first of all, not to take any thunder or speak for Sarah Grayson, who voices Sam, and does a beautiful job. It was funny because I did actually meet Steve Gaynor in that way that I was just describing, where we were at GDC and we were at a barbecue, I think the weekend just after, and he approached me as an actor and he was like, "Hey, you're an actor. Like, would you like to collaborate on this game I'm doing? I'm leaving, 2K, and I'm going to do something else next." And I was like, "Of course. Oh my God." So I did wind up helping with Scratch VO, which, if you don't know, is temporary voiceover. It's not going to be in the final product. So they could figure out the layout and sort of carefully make sure, like, place the audio logs so they wouldn't overlap with each other, and just kind of like tune the pacing, of the story. So I was exposed to Sam's whole journey in that process, and it was so powerful. I think what's interesting, what's the reason that character and those stories, those anecdotes and those confessions kind of resonate so broadly, even though it is this kind of specific and perhaps underrepresented, right, identity or experience, is that I remember there's this wonderful audio log where she is having, I think she's having her hair shampooed, or she's dyeing Lonnie's hair. And then and then after that, first of all, the intimacy of that, oh my God. But then when she like, when she realizes in their interaction that, like, this is real and they're attracted to each other, there's this sense of just insecurity and disbelief. Like, how could this person be interested in me? Like, I'm interested in them. How is it possible they're interested in me? And that just hit, like, I mean, I was immediately shoved back to being 15 and having that same overwhelming, just sort of self-doubting, excited, exhilarated, unbelieving feeling. And so I think there's just so much universality in what she goes through, even though her story is specific and has some shades to it and dimensions to it, and certainly consequences to it that are unique. So So my experience of recording that game had a lot to do with getting to know Sam. And then it was funny because doing Katie, it was like one take. It was like, they were like, we're going to actually have you do this. And I was like, cool. And I did one take of the voicemail and they're like, great, that's it. And I was like, okay, sweet. My God. Okay. So when I do meet people who are fans, I think the most I've had that experience was at GamerX, was seeing people, and sometimes after panels, people will come up to me and say, this game really spoke to me, or it came to me when I needed it, or it's my favorite thing, or something, whatever it is. I'm touched, I'm awed, I'm grateful to have been a part of this small part of this incredible thing. And I connect to it so personally myself that I feel connected to the other person, because we both kind of share this deep link with this project. So I feel blessed. I feel very lucky.
It's a very special game, and guys, I very much implore you guys to check it out. It's called Gone Home. It's on all consoles, including PC. A lot cheaper than it probably needs to be, because it's a phenomenal game, and I do highly recommend you guys check it out. The next game I did want to talk about, though, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, especially as far as production is concerned, is I want to talk about you as Lizzie from Gears 5.
Yay, sure.
As we all know, one of the most anticipated Xbox exclusives ever, really. And you play one of the new central characters. So I just kind of want to ask kind of how your experience was, both as Lizzie, but also, you've done a lot of indie work throughout the years. Kind of what are the differences that you find kind of between indie games versus AAA titles?
Differences in how we make them, or what they consist of, or both?
I'd say probably both in making them, and if there's any unique challenges in like the production quality, or not quality, but the production of
process.
Well,
I'll start with that, and then we can get into Lizzie, because there's so much that I just love her I love her so much. She's one of the closest to me, like as far as my sense of humor, that I've ever gotten to play. So she holds a very special place in my heart. But so indies, the content just tends to be very different. And the characters that I get to play tend to be different. I've kind of settled, since moving to LA, I've kind of settled into getting more cast for kind of tougher chicks, not unlike Lizzie herself, as maybe a signature. And with indies, I'm almost always stretching myself and getting to do something different. If it's Pyre and I'm being sultry and tough at the same, twins, or if I'm doing Rose from Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, who's like kind of a gentle aging hippie, who's also a little dissolute. Like, it just kind of covers the gamut. And that's really nourishing to me. It's why I stay doing it, because I get to kind of stretch, and the games themselves are so unique and special. With the way that they're done, I think indies are increasingly having a voice director, which is wonderful. And so that process, especially if the voice director comes from AAA, is looking more similar. I have found, without a voice director, I found that I take more charge in those sessions and kind of know how they run. Sometimes you'll have a dev who doesn't know how a voice, that's like their first time using voiceover or something. And so they look to you. The more experienced you are, the more you can kind of help them run the session and offer, the more confident I get as an actor, I'll offer more takes when I think I can do another take that would add something to the mix. So there's a little bit more of that sense of like, help me figure this out.
Sure.
And which I'm more than happy to do, and which has become now a business side, like a side business for me. So,
sure.
Yeah. And then in AAA, it's there's more, I find that there's more violence. So you're doing more violent move sets and things like that. Indies have efforts too, but like there's tends to be a lot more conversation in them. And then for AAA, it's like for something like Gears, it's, we had 1 or 2 sessions maybe with pickups for the single player campaign and like cutscenes and whatever. And then just many sessions for the multiplayer, where it's like, it's just 20 versions of this punch, that kill, chainsaw, and so that is like 2 takes in a row, at various levels of projection and intensity for 4 hours or whatever. And so that's like a very particular kind of comfort with decontextualized dialogue, because you're just like, what's happening? And you're like, you're getting shot at, let's deal with it. And athleticism, as far as like stamina and kind of taking care of your voice and committing to the reads. And that's a true technical challenge that's unique to video games. And I think more tends to apply more to AAA. I was very lucky moving to LA that I took a class at PCB, which I recommend if people are in Los Angeles and interested in that did a really good job transitioning from indie games into like what does a AAA session feel like? What do they mean by creating, differentiating levels of intensity? Like what's the kind of, how do you tackle this kind of copy? It was like a really nice prep because I knew I wanted to do AAA, but I didn't know how they worked yet. So that was super helpful.
Well, you brought up a good point that I do kind of want to explore a little more on. Like, it must be taxing having to do, those 4-hour sessions with all those grunts and, the yelling. And, when you have a chainsaw mounted to your gun slashing an enemy, the sounds you make while doing that gotta be murder on the throat. So what kind of steps do you take to kind of either prepare your throat for those kind of sessions and then definitely towards the end kind of recovering after that such taxing ordeal?
It's a great question. And I think I'm glad that you asked it because I think the concept of vocal stress or, just the effect on your voice of these sessions is something that actors are trying to promote more awareness of. And so that we can run our sessions more responsibly, both as directors being sensitive. Excuse me, I should not be drinking seltzer. I should drink flat water. Excuse me. Both for directors being sensitive to it and actors advocating for themselves when they're, paying attention to how their throat's doing. And it's kind of a negotiation that way or a conversation that way. So what I do is, aside from getting enough sleep, because you need to be rested, I think you need to be so rested. You can't be underslept. If you're underslept, your processing time with the dialogue, seeing it and then acting it is slowed down, and you're less likely to recruit all of your muscles to support yourself. Because if you're tired, you're probably going to start acting from here up, which is where you start to get damage. So like, this is silly, but like, I like to think of energy coming through your butt out the top of your head when you do these efforts. It's just it's gotta stay open and everything has to kind of support. And when you start to catch or block that energy is when you start to hold tension, and holding tension is where you get damage. So being rested, being in shape is good. Jennifer Hale yelled at me about this. She was like, I've known her for a while, and she's been extremely kind and helpful to me over the years. And she asked me early on, like, what my exercise routine was. And I was like, I play video games. And she was like, that's not going to work. And so I got like I got Zombies Run on my phone. And so I like started a running routine. Yeah. And it makes a difference. You need to know what it feels like, because it is athletic, and you also just need to know for yourself what being athletic and doing this stuff feels like in your body, so you can use it in your work. So staying in shape. It's all conditioning. It's very little that you can do. There's some things you can do right before the session that are really great. I use straw phonation, which means I get a little coffee straw. And I like, and I buzz it almost like a kazoo in the car. I have like a karaoke playlist that I use on my phone. And so I'll do a mix of singing really like exaggerated in my face to warm up my face. I try to have songs from both men and women, so I'm warming up both the top and bottom of my voice, and I'm buzzing this straw in along with the melody, because something about the breath control you need to kind of push air through the straw to make it vibrate, and the effect of the vibrations from the straw back on your throat really help warm the system up. And what you're doing when you do that is to create more resonance with less push on your voice, because when you're pushing things, again, tension is the enemy. So when you're pushing stuff and straining stuff and holding stuff, that's bad. So the straw really helps kind of get max resonance in your voice for the least amount of effort. So that's what I do. I drink tons of water. I drink so much water in the sessions for Honor as the raider, like, and really you should hydrate the day before is the way to avoid injury. But during the session, I would just pound water that I would like nearly pee myself on the way back from Burbank. Cause like I was like, sessions were in Burbank. I was living on the other side of town. And like in that hour, it was always really risky. I was like, am I going to make it? So yeah, staying hydrated really helps too. And then the same right afterward, it's rest. It's just vocal rest. I'll drink cough syrup and it's really more of kind of a placebo effect. But when you do that damage, it's like bruising your shin. And if you keep talking, because what happens is your folds close to make the noise, right? And so if you slam them, you bruise them. But to talk even is continuing to use them. So it would be like kicking your shin against the door frame every time after you've done this job. So the more you can just rest and let it be, the faster it'll recover. So I try to like not talk and just chill if it's been a really exhausting session.
Sure.
So that's the full answer to your question.
Well, to be fair, if Jennifer Hale told me to work out more, I'd be running 3 miles a day. So
yeah. And I remember the moment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if it makes you feel better, it's kind of hard to tell because it's in a Naruto cup, but I also have LaCroix in here, so you're not the only one drinking
Yeah,
seltzer.
exactly. Lemon LaCroix.
Hey.
Not a sponsor, but they could be. Maybe they should
Oh
be.
man, God, do I wish. One
Yeah.
day.
I remember the moment playing Mass Effect 3 and playing as FemShep, and hearing her sprinting noises. And this was before I was really working out. And I was like, that's what a fit person sounds like when they run. And then being like, I need to find out more about this. I need to know this for myself. You breathe differently. You're not just like,
Well,
So.
you're not wrong. But I did want to, speaking of fitness, a lot of people, especially now, have experienced many games that have a lot higher production value than back then. And some of that includes motion capture, where kind of voice acting and kind of in-person physical acting kind of blend together. So I did want to ask you kind of what are your experiences with motion capture, and do you have any funny stories or anecdotes to tell about that? And maybe as a last topic, kind of, what is unique about motion capture compared to, just kind of normal voice acting?
Gosh, I mean, well, I did about 2 years of performance capture, just sort of shooting very intermittently, like a few days every other month or something, for Anthem, as the freelancer, which was very lucky. I was very blessed and grateful to be the act, because there's a male voice as well, Ray Chase, who's wonderful. But I was the one on the performance capture stage, so I was there doing performance capture, and he would dub over it later for that version. So I was overjoyed to be able to participate in that side of the process, because I love, the main difference for me is access to your other actors. I mean, I don't know if folks know this, but most game voice sessions are solo. You don't get to act with your scene partners. And I miss that. As someone who loves this field and loves my job, like I thrive on listening and responding and reacting, spontaneously to your fellow actors is part of a great joy of the job, and one I very rarely get to enjoy. So performance capture is beautiful for that. I think if there's something I would point out about it, it's that, yes, the production value has gone up over the years and technology has improved, and you get better, more subtle, more detailed data from your actors' performances than ever, which is wonderful. But I think the biggest impact that performance capture and motion capture has on the ultimate product is that access that your actors have to each other. That makes, you're getting different choices, you're getting a different performance. It's like looking into a multiverse. Like, I make a choice, you have a counter choice, and together we run off in a direction that would be totally different if we weren't in the same room. So that to me is just sort of a magical part of getting to do games when you get a chance to do it, and just very different than acting by yourself in a booth. It's really fun. I'm trying to think of a fun story. I mean, there's something particular to the way that to my character in Anthem, because I was most of the with some exceptions, the cutscenes were in first person. So I had my camera rigged where most people's camera is facing this way and they have face markers to capture their face movements. Mine was actually being used for reference out. So my camera was turned the other way.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really cool. And it was like, I was very cognizant of that in my performance. I was doing voiceover that was very, that felt like it was close and in your head. There's a slightly different way to go about doing that. And I was thinking about that a lot. I was thinking about, because you just kind of see my hands. I was like, this is what you're going to see of my body here. And then I was there for the animation team to kind of use it as reference point for what the player will see in that cutscene with all my buddies and my scene partners around. But when we would go for pee breaks, that comes into play, because my camera's facing this way, and if I go into a bathroom, like, they would have to catch me basically as someone, and they did catch me like at the last second one time. Because if I go into a bathroom and there's a mirror across and you've got a camera and I pee, that's like not so good. So someone's got to be on like cam watch, like block it off, turn it around, like, de-rig. So you can't forget that on you if that's what you're doing. But it was great. It was I would love to, I look forward to getting back on the performance capture stage at some point, because that was the last time since doing theater that I had like a true cast feeling with my castmates recording over that amount of time. And I owe one of my castmates a call. I love him. And it's a special feeling getting to do that stuff. So as a player, I love what it's been adding to games, like, what Naughty Dog has done with performance capture and just actor collaboration in general over the years. So it's exciting. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm personally excited to see what comes next after, the craziness of the world kind of dies down. Kind of back to that. But
Yeah.
guys, I just wanted to point something out since we're about halfway through right now. Plenty of guys have already either messaged
Ask questions?
Visioncon directly or done it in the live chat. You guys still have plenty of time to do so because we're still about halfway done.
Yeah.
But once you do, we'll be able to do viewers' comments and questions toward the end. But the next thing I want to talk about, Sarah, is IndieCade. Now, I'm a huge fan of indies. A lot of people watching, huge fan of indies. So I want to know all about IndieCade.
So IndieCade is a festival. I mean, physically, it's usually a festival in a couple different places. Los Angeles in the fall. There's an IndieCade Europe in France, and there's an IndieCade East in New York City. IndieCade is really, it's been called sort of the Sundance of indie games, which is really kind of a way to explain it to people who don't play games, right? But it is, to my mind, like my favorite or one of the only festivals that I know that really combines digital games, video games, as well as LARPs and immersive theater and board games. And it's just a wonderful collection of all kinds of interactive design in a way that I think is so stimulating and exciting. And you see things that are just absolutely silly. I mean, there's a game in there this year that's called the Everyone Has One Butt game. There's that. And then on the other end, there's a game called Bruckle, which is about, it's almost like if you took on Home, like a first person home exploration game, and you get these audio logs from this developer's actual grandmother who, experienced Nazis kind of visiting her home in, I guess, maybe the Netherlands, I think. I could be super wrong about that. Poland? I don't know. But yeah, so you have like a mix of just really serious games and dramatic games and documentary games and really lighthearted, silly, goofy things. Many times I've seen devices. It was the first time I saw VR that was embodied. And I remember it was it was Nani de la Peña's game about witnessing some police abuse. But you had this backpack and there were cameras. It was just the most DIY VR setup that now everyone has in their living room.
Yeah.
So you just often see genres and themes or games themselves that will kind of take off later at IndieCade first. And it's just a wonderful community experience for the devs who participate, getting to know each other and creating, for me included, creating lasting relationships that lead to collaboration and community over time. So I love IndieCade. I've been working with them since 2014 when I was the game maker relations. And then since 2016, I've been the director and co-host of the awards. And as someone who does AAA now, it's like every year getting to see these games, the creativity and the resourcefulness and the inspiration is just like, it fills me up for the rest of the year. Cause it's so important to me is to stay connected to what folks that are really, at the experimental edges of the forum are doing. So I love IndieCade. So it's this year this year it's online. IndieCade anywhere and everywhere. So from the 16th to the 23rd, you can catch streaming of the games, all kinds of programming, talks. The awards are on the 23rd at 12 p.m. PST. And yeah, it's sort of more accessible than ever. So check it out.
Well, that link, as well as many others associated with Sarah, are going to be in the live chat. Thanks to Marissa Pence, the wind beneath my sails. Love you always, Marissa. She's also in the chat making sure you guys behave. So keep on behaving and, talk amongst yourselves. And like I said, make sure you get those good questions and comments for when we get to the
Yes, please. I look forward to them.
Well, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about before we get into kind of some more tips of the trade is you actually, as recently as just this week, are in a AAA title kind of, of a franchise, maybe some people may know, called Star Wars Squadrons.
Yay!
Let's talk about it. I want to know everything about it. I knew the game was coming out, but I didn't hear too much about it until recently. So for me and the folks watching at home, tell us all about Star Wars Squadrons.
Well, I haven't gotten in there and played yet. My brother and I are sharing. We're still wrapping up. He's deep in Avengers. I'm still in Ghost of Tsushima. So we're trying to and I'm waiting for my VR headset to arrive. And I feel like that's when I'm really I won't be able to resist. I'm gonna dive in, and I cannot wait. But it's as far as the experience of doing it, I mean so I can't, right. I'm excited to play it and learn more about it, and then I can say more about it. But it is an homage to or kind of a revitalization of the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, series, which I played a little bit of as a kid. I wasn't as much of a flight sim person, but I was a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, you can see, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Huge Star Wars fan. So I mean, my gosh, what a thrill. And my character, it was just, again, game voiceover can go by really quickly. Like, this was one session. So I'm the voice of your Imperial pilot. You're going to you choose between, you're going to play both an Imperial and a New Republic pilot. So I'm one of your options for your Imperial pilot voice. And we really went for kind of a Tamara Morrison homage, just sort of like Clint Eastwood in space. Yeah, like just kind of that like Mandalorian. Yeah. Very, very, very fun. And I was being directed by someone who directed him. And like Dara O'Farrell, again, was my voice director, who's like worked with the Star Wars IP as a director, as a voice director, and kind of a caretaker for decades. Like, and voice directed, a game that meant so much to me as a kid, The Curse of Monkey Island, one of like those early games that had voiceover to begin with and just knocked it out of the park. LucasArts had quality voiceover going back to the beginning, and that game changed me forever. So being directed by Dara was like, it's like really exciting. So it's immersive as heck. I hear it can be kind of challenging, but I'm excited to see the response. It seems like it's been really positive so far. I know some of the writers, going back a bit, and I'm really happy and proud for them. And I can't wait to get in there and have some nasty dog fights. So yeah, that's why I'm blessed. And every other voice of every other pilot is like as a friend and someone I admire greatly. So like you can't go wrong, really. It's an exciting crew to be a part of. So I'm thrilled. Yeah, I'm thrilled.
Curse of Monkey Island, Secret of Monkey Island, Grim Fandango. Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, Squadrons. Now, is that available just for like Oculus and PC, or will PlayStation?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's the headset that I have coming. Yeah. So I'm going to play it on PlayStation.
Heck yeah.
I know for sure it's PlayStation and PC. I'm assuming Xbox, but I'm actually not sure about that for some reason. And I probably won't go full joystick, although who knows? We'll see. I hear they're actually kind of hard to find right now, those HOTAS. So I'll be using a PSVR helmet and my controller.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, last few questions I want to talk about before we go in the plug zone. Then, of course, viewers' comments and questions, everyone.
Yes.
A lot of people who watch this show obviously are here for, the big celebrities we have, like yours truly. However, a lot of other people I've noticed have watched this show because they are either interested in getting into acting, voice acting, or already are and just kind of want to know where to go next. So for a seasoned veteran such as yourself, the first question I wanted to ask you in this vein is, how do you deal with rejection? Now, obviously, rejection is a huge part of life in general, but I would say if any industry where rejection is most prevalent, I would say your industry is definitely one of them. So how do you deal with rejection? Does it get any easier? Or if it doesn't, how do you personally deal with it so it doesn't bog you down at the end of the day?
It's an excellent question. It's no matter what it is, you're creating. Good job, you. You're doing some sort of mental emotional gymnastics to cope with it, and there are frameworks that you can think of it as that are helpful to you. So, I mean, for me, part of it is just developing a thick skin and getting used to sending things out and not hearing anything back. I think, and then all of it gets easier the more you do it. So if I'm sending out 4 auditions a day and, all week, like I forget about them. That's the best thing you can do is just forget. You're like, people, when I tell people, oh, I got to go audition, or like, and then they see them again and they're like, how was that audition? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. That being said, so that's how I basically deal with it day to day, is I like have fun with it. The other thing that's true, and I've heard Emma Stone say this as well, and I'm glad I feel corroborated. I feel very affirmed by this. I feel like it's been co-signed by a very talented person. So is that the audition is your moment to have the job. For again, thinking in this multiverse, this is your job now. And so you go in there for 5 minutes, and for those 5 minutes, that's it. You own the space. It's your interpretation of the character is what's happening. And so you stay in a playful mindset where every opportunity you get to experience these characters is a joyful one and a curious one. And then you leave it behind. And then you've done your job. That's your job, is 99% auditioning. So you just rinse and repeat that experience. And you walk away and you forget about it. Now, I will say, like, when nothing comes back after hundreds of auditions, it can start to wear on you, and you can start to think, is anyone even listening? Or, all that other stuff. And you just have to I think the key is recentering, reconnecting with the practice. You were lucky to audition. That's joyful. You are, it can be joyful to explore these characters. That's fun. If you lose that sense of play and that sense of excitement about just getting to do that much, then you will wear out if you're just waiting to kind of be affirmed or get a session. But it's hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time. You will have to re-up on how you get through it over time. But you just remember it's not personal. It's not that you're bad necessarily. It's that someone else is a fit. And when you're in this, Jennifer Hill often says this too, like every one of us could do all these jobs. It's just what flavor bubblegum they like, dude, like, or whatever ice cream, like we could do it fine. It's just what resonates and what fits and what they're looking for. So you don't really have to take it personally, or needn't take it personally. It's just, what do you have to offer? And is that what they're in the market for? So yeah, those are some of the ways that I think about it to get by, I suppose. But it's tricky. It's hard for everybody.
Yeah. It's not you, it's them.
Sure. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's, I shouldn't.
Right. So in that same vein, people watching the show either are wanting to get into voice acting and acting or already are and just need to know kind of what to do next. What sort of advice would you give them to kind of take the next step? Should they immediately get an agent and get the best software and equipment there is out there? Or should that be a gradual step? And just any other tidbits of advice that you wish you had starting out?
I think that when it comes to jumping into different categories of like for lack of a better word, competitiveness, like then gradual can be good, not too gradual, but like get your experience, center yourself. If you're still having, massive nerves during auditions, or you're tight in the way that you're claustrophobic around the microphone, like you don't want to like get in front of your dream agent and put yourself out there at that moment in your evolution. So take the time to explore and learn mic technique. Take the time to take acting seriously as this whole separate general skill. Like you've got to, have access to your life experience and your emotions and make interesting choices and commit to them fully. There's a lot that goes into that. That's just acting related, not voiceover specific. And then there's plenty of stuff that's voiceover specific. So do work your craft and learn as much as you can. You're going to need to invest in materials that show you put a good foot forward, because first impressions do count with agents and casting directors alike. So get a good demo. I would say if you're just starting out, get a decent, like a Blue Yeti or something. Get a decent setup going, and then start to invest more later. Do non-union jobs until you feel like you're ready to kind of, and it's hard. It can be a hard thing to control when you join the union, but get your experience in. Don't be in a rush to join the union until you've had a good deal of experience, and then do so if you want, certain kinds of jobs, and to kind of, I'm very pro-union, so that's me. But that doesn't mean that I encourage everyone to just join right away, because there's a lot to learn and a lot to get comfortable with. And then get that experience under your belt before you go to the big agents that you want to have, or get an agent that, start with a local agent to yourself if you're not in Los Angeles, and build your way up. But do take the time to understand the space, to understand acting, to develop yourself as an actor and what you are compelled to do, what you have to offer. Because the more you understand what you have to offer, the more confident you'll be in those auditions, and confidence counts for quite a lot. If you're in there in a place of need, nothing tanks your audition faster than being in there needing something instead of offering something. So you want to take the time to develop that. Yeah. That's some stuff that comes to mind. So does that answer your question? I hope.
With leagues and bounds.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this is your last chance to type any viewers, comments, or questions, both in the live chat or Visioncon directly, because ladies and gentlemen, we're in the plug zone. Sarah Elmaleh, now is your chance to promote, advertise, plug, whatever verb you want to use, anything you want. The floor is yours.
Oh my God, I should be prepared for this. I'm the worst at this. Or just heads up, I'm so bad at this. Okay, well, play Star Wars Squadrons. Like, what are you doing? Get in there, jump in that cockpit, help out your buddies, take down both sides, I guess, um, and enjoy yourself. I can't wait to do that. That's exciting to me personally. What else? What else? What else? What else has just come out? I don't remember. Well, there's also a television show. If you're in the mood for a little light Brazilian crime drama, just to pivot off of games for a second, there is a new show on Netflix called Good Morning Veronica. And you can't miss me in it, for I am she, Veronica. And yeah, so just watch if you were interested in the English dub. That's your gal. What else? What else? What else? Nerds Vote. Nerds Vote. I mean, nerds do that. They vote. Nerds Vote is also an organization. This is, I mean, I feel like this is just a human plug, not a career plug. But like, if you aren't registered to vote, if you don't have a vote plan, go to nerdsvote.org.com. Google it. Google Nerds Vote, and get yourself prepared. Get ready. This year, this election more than ever, we need to be on top of that. As soon as you are able to vote, please do. And Courtney Taylor and JP Karliak and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn have an organization to help you figure all of that out, and that's Nerds Vote. What else? What else? What else? I'm running out of ideas. IndieCade. Check out IndieCade if you weren't here. If you're joining us late for some reason, go to IndieCade, watch all of their stuff. You are going to get exposed to just kinds of games that you didn't know existed, kinds of stories that games can tell that you would never thought of. It's just beautiful, and it's full of smart, creative, vulnerable people, and I just love it. And so it's IndieCade season. Go watch IndieCade, buy the games, hang out and chat. Yeah. What else? That's the big thing I'm gearing up for. Is the
If
IndieCade
they
Awards.
just want more of you, where could they find you?
Oh my God. If after you're done with like an entire season of TV as Veronica, you need more for some reason. You can follow me on Twitter. I hang out on Twitter. I retweet a lot of game dev stuff, as well as anything else that tickles my fancy. It's not a very serious page, but it is a very sincere page. I will share all kinds of gamey things and acty things and other sorts of stuff like that. It's where I post news for sure. My website, sarahelmaleh.com, surprise, surprise, will stay up to date with not just game stuff. Certainly when games are released, I'll try to get clips on there as soon as I can manage. And it covers some of the other stuff I do. Speaking events, labor advocacy. I worked really hard on the low budget, on the indie contract with the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA. And I have resources there for developers and folks who want to learn about it, how to use it. I have started doing consulting, which means I help indie developers from everything from understanding the contract and getting signed with the union to how to cast actors, how to work with actors, anything to do with the voiceover process. I'm kind of available. I offer free resources for information, and then I also provide a service to kind of help you hands-on with anything you might need or want to understand, because I believe indies are glorious and they deserve the best actors possible, and to understand how to work with them. So the website, sure. Also, Red Lantern is coming out at some point. Red Lantern's going to be a thing. I cast and voice directed that, and that was a huge joy. That's that'll be out soon. I don't think we have an exact release date yet, but it's going to be soon. And that's a young woman goes out to Alaska, and she like leaves behind her learning, just everything, to go race sled dogs in Alaska. So you're on a dog sled, you've got your puppers, you're out in the beautiful, very chilly wilderness, and you're voiced by Ashley Birch. So what could be better? You're just hanging out, talking to your pups. Oh my God, the dream. Wonderful. So I'm really excited for that to hit. I think that's something that we all need in our lives right now. So yeah, I think that does me for pluggery.
All right. Well, it's interesting that you bring up Nerds Vote, because definitely we at Visioncon definitely recommend you guys get registered to vote, make your voice heard, and it won't be the last time you hear about Nerds Vote, because we will also have both Courtney Taylor and Sissy Jones on future episodes of Visioncon Live. We get a lot more information for that, but until now, all of those links are both going to be in the live chat. Thank you, Marissa Pence. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, going to be down in the description box below. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're on viewers' comments and questions.
Hello.
So like I always do, I'm going to kind of do it 50-50, some in the live chat and some in the messenger. We'll try to get through all of them. So let me bring that up.
I'm so excited. I'm just so flattered that people would want to ask me anything.
See, people can listen to me drawing on and on about my shenanigans, but when they get their questions, those are the real questions.
I'm stoked. Let me at 'em.
All right. So Allison wrote in and wanted to know, what were some of your favorite games growing up?
Well, I've already talked about a couple, right?
Hmm.
So, Curse of Monkey Island, those LucasArts adventure games was like, I grew up playing a lot of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, a lot of Sega Genesis. Actually, was a big when we were right before the adventure game era kind of heyday. But yeah, middle school, that was like when I really when games were being made that made me laugh, made me think, made me just like that I connected with on a different level, on a newer, deeper level. So yeah, that sort of 3-year run of like Full Throttle, Curse of Monkey Island, Grim Fandango was pretty life changing. Realizing that Mark Hamill was the bad guy in Full Throttle like blew my mind again because Star Wars fan. The fact that Luke Skywalker was this like deep, bassy, silky bad guy blew my mind, and showed me what voiceover was about. Was getting to voice things you look nothing like and don't sound like in your day to day, and that was exciting, life changing. And then Curse of Monkey Island changed my sense of humor forever. Like this goofy, weird, esoteric, like nerdy, silly shtick that I seem to not be able to get out of. That was from Curse of Monkey Island for sure. And Grim Fandango, just vibe. Like, oh my God, has any game had better vibe? Like that brilliant mishmash of remix of influences was fantastic. And again, with fantastic performances. And by the way, great female performances in that game. You know, I mean, it feels like the sort of overall narrative of games is that roles and characters and characterization for women has gotten better over time, which is true. But you look back to some of those LucasArts games and like there were powerful, sassy, funny, smart, women in those games. So they've been there. They've been there. Yeah, from then on, I feel like I really started to like BioWare made a huge difference in my life, from KOTOR on, basically. I loved those games. They offered me, Jade Empire gave me an opportunity to explore my sexuality in a way that I hadn't in life yet, as far as like dating women as well as men. And just the quality of the performances and the writing and the connection that I felt with those characters has stayed with me for the decades since. Obviously, I mentioned Mass Effect played a huge role in my life, and Uncharted. I mean, that's now I'm getting to be a grown up. So I don't know about growing up. I think I'm leaving the zone of growing up at that point. But I will just say that Naughty Dog games further put me on the path of caring about, of realizing the potential in games performance and how collaborative and exciting it could be. And so that really deepened my commitment to the space. So outer edge of growing up, but that's I'll shove it in there.
I say we're all growing up still.
Right. I'm still a child.
You never stop. But okay. So Marissa actually wrote in, wants to know, she checked out your website and you have quite the portfolio. What's the biggest difference doing a commercial or ad for companies like Amazon or Ford versus voice acting on a video?
Oh my God. Well, there's different stamina. I feel like there's with voiceover and with other categories, there's just a different way that you apply your focus and a different kind of stamina you have to keep. So with games, it's that athletic stamina of making sure your body is working with you, as you plow through lots and lots of lines over the course of, 4 hours. With commercials, the stamina is in doing the same 30-second or 1-minute long copy over and over for about an hour. So with that one, it's like keeping it fresh, keeping it new, keeping it alive, offering different versions of it. That takes a different kind of focus and consistency to stay in that space with the same copy, for an entire session. So I would say that's probably the biggest difference.
Okay. All right. Well, let's look into the live chat real quick. A lot of people are saying hi.
Hello.
They also love Gone Home, which good. You guys have great taste. A couple people are saying that Clifford is a chaotic good character.
Dig.
Yeah. Which, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, next time tune into the pre-show. All right. And then Zachary, not me, wanted to know. He said, "Oddball question. Would you consider Carmine and Lizzie to be Gears' answer to South Park's Kenny McCormick?"
I think a lot of people think that. There's definitely a reference to it. I mean, there's a dialogue line reference to Kenny that I kind of say about myself when I respawn, like in multiplayer matches, where I'm like, oh my God, they killed Carmine. So yes, in that sense, sure, yes. Certainly in multiplayer matches, dying takes on this parallel shape to Kenny getting offed. And the Carmines, yes, having to die. It is their fate they live but for to die. So yes, they are certainly kindred in that way too.
That's fair. Well, Katie tuned in and actually wanted to know, and this one, I like this one, is I love your hair. What product do you use?
What, this whole thing?
I'm assuming she means the color.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been staying inside a lot, obviously, as is the mandate. Basically, I've done very little outdoor distancing, but I did go to my hairstylist, who had like doubled up masks, and so she took good care of me. Because my hair was getting really unruly. I dyed it. She dyed it. She was right. Bless her heart. She was like, "You could be a blonde," and I was like, "You lying?" I was like, "You liar,
Yeah.
fiend." But she was correct. I thought so. She dyed it like platinum right before this all went down, and so I was just having this sloppy, growing out mess of a skunk thing on my head for months. And so, and within the last like month or two, I went to her and we're like, "We need a new plan for the rest of this time that we're in." So product. I mean, I have an Odabe paste that goes in there. The color is custom by Miguel, who's just a wizard with color and cut alike. And we figured we would go for kind of like a Tinkerbell from Hook vibe. So that's what we're doing now. Thank you. That's nice of you to say.
Well, last question before we sign off. Nick wanted to know, do you have any funny stories doing motion capture?
I mean, the funniest one I think is accidentally almost filming myself pee, but what else is sort of funny? I mean, I feel like the funny thing about doing a long shoot over time is that like you develop a lot of dumb in-jokes that don't play for anyone who's not on the set. like me and the cast, like we'd do joking accents, and it would evolve from be like, "Oh, we're all Russian for some reason," and we're like, "Oh, we're like not so hot on stuff." So 50-50 became like our assessment of anything. It's like, "How do you feel about this?" Yeah, 50-50. But like we didn't. I don't think there's any. Trying to think if I almost injured myself. Probably. Probably. I probably almost died a couple of times. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that's goofy. You just get real punch drunk. You get real silly on that set after a long shoot. It's like, with a game voiceover session, it's 4 hours at a time, but with a performance capture, it's a full day, like a film shoot. Except instead of on a film shoot where you're waiting for setups, you have downtime, and the challenge is to stay in your emotional zone for when you need to actually act. It's like so much waiting for everything else around you. On a performance capture stage, it's a lot less of that. So you are acting pretty straight through that. The only reset is the actors. Like, reset the actors, go again. So you get very silly. So yeah, I'm sure there's tons and tons of goofy in jokes. And I remember I'm trying to think of what did I can't remember the word I actually said. I remember what it sounded like to everyone. Got very offended, but now I can't remember what I actually said, which was totally fine. Let's suffice it to say there's a black castmate in this cast who I love, and she's phenomenal. And I said something as a joke that really read as a slur, and for like 30 solid seconds, the entire stage thought I was a huge racist until I clarified what I had actually said. And it took everyone just like a minute to kind of clear out their systems, forgive me in their mind, and resume acting. That was harrowing. Yeah, I should have better stories. Literally anyone else from that cast is probably a better storyteller than I am. You should ask Nick Tarabay to tell you stories. He'll go. What a joy. Yeah.
Well, almost walking into the bathroom with it. I mean, that one's of its own.
God.
But ladies and gentlemen, that's about all the time we got. Now, before we wrap things up, Sarah, any final thoughts to leave us on?
Oh my gosh. Besides vote, just do vote, please. What else? I don't know. I mean, thoughts about what? Games.
Any final words to leave us on?
Final words. Keep playing games. I think hold on to, I mean, not that anyone needs me to tell them to do that, but like play is, I think in this time, actually, maybe this is just me, but that my work and play time has just started bleeding together, because when we're all at home, I think that there's just less of that sense of like stopping working and whatever. So please do, and I've made less time to play games as a result, actually. So take that time for yourself to recharge, because we're all taxed more than ever, and things are still being asked of us as far as our day-to-day, if you are lucky to have work, you know, and if you're not, that's a whole different set of stressors. But play, I think, is a way that we stay connected to our joy. It's how you recharge. I think take good care of yourselves and play games, because you deserve to relax in these crazy times. So maybe that's what I would say.
Couldn't say it better myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 30 of Visioncon Live. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And of course, the Halp Network for sponsoring this video.
Yay, thank you, Halp Network.
Make sure you check them out, as well as all of the links down in the description below. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but much more importantly, this has been my special guest, Sarah Elmaleh. But until next time, guys, always remember that life's better when you have friends to share it with.